Hello everybody, this is GeneralJannis, and today we are looking at the Deathshroud Terminators, reviewing them, their weapons, the leaders, and looking at the question, should we use the Lord of Virulence or the Lord of Contagion for the bodyguards, the elite Terminators of the Death Guard. So let's get started. So today, the 23rd of March, I found the second Biologus purifier in my collection. I only thought I had one, and thinking now to use more and more Plague Marines in my lists. It was nice to see that I can make two Plague Marine squads with heavy weapons, Biologus and Foul Blight Spawns. I have plenty of Foul Blight Spawns and Taliban. Now I found my second Biologus, so that's nice. But what more nice to complement a Death Guard army, but to use our elite Deathshroud Terminators. And Beleander had a comment to my video about anti-vehicle shooting with brigands and so on. He says that a 6-man Deathshroud brig with a Lord of Contagion can kill a Land Raider on average. So we basically have anti-tank as Death Guard. It's just not obvious. It's not mainly the shooting, but it's melee. So in this video, trying to give the breakdown on the Deathshroud Terminators, looking at their datasheet and weapons, leaders and squads, ideas, what to use 3-man or 6-man, etc. Looking a little bit at their durability, and then overall comparison with Plague Marines and Blight Lords per point. What are we getting? So here we have the Deathshroud datasheet. 3 models are 120 points, 6 models 240 points. They have the Plague Spurt Gauntlet. The champion can have 2 of those. A small flamer weapon that I have covered in my torrent video. But basically their main weapon is the Man Reaper, which has a strike and a very lackluster sweep profile. They are lethal hits weapons. The strike profile, 4 attacks, hitting on 2 pluses, strength 8, AP -2, damage 2, so a nice, let's say, Plague Fist type of weapon, but hitting very nicely. Their ability is the Silent Bodyguard. When they have a character leading the unit, each time an attack targets this unit, if they are attacked with something with a higher strength than the toughness 6, so strength 7 and up, the enemy has to subtract minus from the wound roll. So this is a nice durability increase here, just from the get-go, but they need a leader for that. The leaders that they can have is the Lord of Contagion, and his leader ability gives them while a Lord of Contagion is leading the unit, they can reroll all to hit roll. They are hitting on 2, so you would ideally think, let's reroll the ones, but it could make sense to, I'll show you in the next slide, in a few slides, that it could make sense also to reroll to get more 6s if you are fighting against a very tough opponent, to get the lethal hits going with a Man Reaper. Lord of Virulence with his Master of Destruction. This gives rerolling the wound roll from shooting weapons, and this can buff the Gauntlet. I'll show you soon. And then the Destroyer Hive of Typhus. When he's leading the unit, the Deathshroud Terminators are -1 to be hit from melee attacks. Unfortunately, if this also was helping them in shooting, that maybe would have been a stronger combo. And then we have the more, let's say, chaos leaders. Sorcerer in Terminator armor can give us basically disgusting resilience with a psychic ability in the fight phase. But on a 1, you can risk D3 mortal wounds, potentially killing one Deathshroud here in the worst of cases. But otherwise, on a 2+, then you reduce the damage intaking in the fight phase, but doesn't help us, again, the durability in the shooting phase. And then finally, the Chaos Lord in Terminator's armor, we can reroll a hit roll of 1. So if you don't fish for 6s, that basically gives you the same effect as Lord of Contagion. Looking now at the weapons damage output for the Deathshroud Terminators, we see the weapons here and the expected damage from one weapon versus a variety of targets I'm typically using to simulate. The commas in the numbers is the decimal point, so 1,2 means 1.2. And we see, for example, first the Plague Spurt Gauntlet. It can do a little bit of damage, especially to infantry. It's an anti-infantry 4+, but the damage tapers quickly off against the vehicles and targets that are tougher here, only strength 3 here. And then we see the strike profile of the Man Reaper in melee, and then the sweep profile. Both of them are lethal hits, but for any target, you can see here, even for guardsmen or termagants, it's better to use. You get similar damage output with a strike instead of the sweep. The sweep is a bit lackluster because you only get 2 more attacks and you lose all the AP, and it's only strength 5. So there is no basically no point to use the sweep profile. So it's a bit poor game design maybe here, but the strike profile is really good, and you can do some good damage, especially something like intercessors, also terminators. You can do nice damage here, and also up to vehicles. You can do some damage here just with one weapon. When I did some simulations with if I add the contagions and so on, at some point -1 save and so on, you could benefit a little bit from the sweep, but I think that will, in most cases, it's just better to stick with the strike. Now, if you go below the baseline, we have the Plague Sport Gauntlet again, but then I'm adding the Contagion with -1 save. Then you see an improvement that the enemies in Contagion, -1 toughness and -1 save. So you see an improvement, but still not very high damage output versus vehicles. If we add the Lord of Virulence with a Plague Sport Gauntlet, then we reroll all the wounds, and then we get a significant improvement versus infantry and a little bit versus vehicles. If we have the Lord of Virulence and the -1 Contagion, we more than double the damage output of the Plague Sport Gauntlet, but still you see 0.4 wounds from one pistol, let's say from one gauntlet versus, for example, a Land Raider. If we look at the Man Reaper with the strike profile, here we again we have the baseline. Then if we add the enemy is also, of course, the enemy will be in that -1 toughness contagion already in the baseline in melee, but here I'm selecting also the -1 save. Then we get 18% more damage than the baseline. Now we are, for example, killing 2.5 intercessors with Man Reaper instead of 2. If we have Lord of Contagion giving the rerolls, we get 70% more damage. And if we combine Lord of Contagion and we have selected the -1 save, here we get 37% more damage of the already high damage of the Man Reaper, and we see also the same high, let's say high damage also versus vehicles. 4 wounds on a Rhino, 2.5 wounds on a Land Raider. So -1 save is always good to take to help our damage output. And Lord of Virulence mainly improves us versus infantry. If you're facing a lot of infantry, could be a good thing, but the Lord of Contagion is really who is helping to get more damage versus vehicles and elite high toughness targets. Now, the previous slide was dealing with single weapons. Now, some ideas for the squads. The first question would be: should we use 3-man squads or 6-man squads? I think let's say what is in favor of a 3-man squad is that many times you are facing some enemy units that the 3-man squad will already take out, and then the rest of the damage could be wasted. That's something talking for a 3-man squad. If you're coming out of deep strike and you fail your charge, if you have a very big investment in a 6-man squad, if it's not active in the game, it's really a big investment. So a 3-man squads can cover more of the table. But the things in favor of the 6-man squad, and I think why you should pick the 6-man squad, is that you have the potential to take out even the largest targets. I'll show you in the next graph with the 6-man squad. The survivability also, losing 1 or 2, you still have quite a lot of melee prowess to deal with. The 3-man squad, if you lose 1 or 2, then it's not very easy to do a lot of damage. And of course, the bigger the squad, the more efficient is the boosting of the leaders. You pay 80 points to add a Lord of Contagion, but you will re-rolling for more weapons. Also, if you want to use the Sanguos, Flux, Boil Blight, or whatever stratagems you want to buff, of course, the bigger squads are better here. But so I think one big bomb of 6-man squad is probably the way to go with the Deathshroud. Looking at the leaders, as we briefly touched upon, the Lord of Contagion will improve on their main strength, their melee damage, re-rolling, so we get more hits and more 6s. You can fish for 6s as well. Normally when I play, I try to re-roll only the 1s. You can see if you see a small table I made here. If you hit on 2s, 17% with no re-rolls would be a misses. That's the 1s, and you only get 1 out of 6 are your lethal hits. If you reroll only the ones, you get more hits and more lethal hits, and you don't miss so much. But if you really want to get the lethal hits going for auto-wounding a big target where you probably only will be wounding on a 5 or 6, you can reroll all of it, keeping only the 6s. Then a third of your attacks would be lethal hits. You have still quite a lot of misses there. You will get some ones, but maybe the lethal hits will make up for that. I haven't calculated this effect in the next tables, but just to illustrate that you have a potential also to get for 6s where it's most important. The Lord of Virulence will improve their weaker gauntlets. Typhus will help them in melee defensively. His extra ability to cause mortal wounds is probably not very helpful if it's better maybe to pair Typhus with Poxwalkers. The Sorcerer in Terminator armor can give them more durability in melee, and the Chaos Lord in Terminator armor can give them the reroll ones, but you will not have the ability, let's say, to fish for 6s for the lethal hits and the rerolling ones. He could be giving it to Blightlord Terminators and also rerolling their shooting. So probably Lord of Contagion or Lord of Virulence is the way to go. I'll show you on the next table. So in this busy slide now, a lot of data to share with you guys. I don't know if I'm putting out too many numbers. I could give you a simple number or say use this and that, but I like to share why, and maybe it will be helpful for you. Maybe you can pause and see of some of these numbers. But let's see here. So we in the first two lines we have the squad where we only have 3 Deathshroud Terminators. We don't have a leader, and here you can see the damage output that they can do. With their shooting at 12-inch range, you can kill, let's say, 1 Intercessor. If you come into melee with 3 Deathshroud Terminators, you could be killing 6 Intercessors more. But for Terminators, you can basically kill 2 of those. So they will have, if it's a big squad of Terminators, you don't have enough firepower to take them out. Here I'm not assuming the -1 save yet. It's just the baseline. They are -1 toughness in Contagion. If we get the 6 Deathshroud Terminators, we see here that, of course, the damage is basically doubled. Not in 12-inch, let's say it's a little bit less per Terminator, because, yeah, with the 3 Terminators, we have 4 gauntlets. With 6 Terminators, we have 7 gauntlets. But in melee, it's basically double the damage output. So in this case, in the base scenario, we are making 13 wounds on Terminators. So that's 4 Terminators killed. With a shooting, we could wipe out a whole 5-man Terminator squad here. We can also do some nice damage versus a Land Raider. 10 wounds with a shooting, with a Rhino, 16 wounds or taking it out, etc. If we add the Contagion with a -1 save in melee, you see the damage is improved. Not so much with the 4+ invul Terminators, but you can see for Intercessors suddenly we're making 29 wounds with a 6-man squad without any leaders here yet. So we can be taking out, Marine equivalents and guardsmen and things like that. We can really tear into those. And then we have, if we add Lord of Virulence, at the shooting at 12 inches is improved here. Lord of Virulence also contributes with his twin Plague Spear. So we could be doing 4 wounds on Terminators from 12-inch range with a Lord of Virulence. If the enemy is in -1 Contagion and -1 save, 8 wounds or Terminators from the shooting, but not so much versus vehicles. Let's say 3 wounds shooting a Land Raider with 6 Deathshroud Terminators and the Lord of Virulence and the Contagion. When they come into melee, it's basically the Lord of Virulence doesn't really contribute so much to the Man Reaper. He just add his Plague Fist here, so we get a little bit more damage than the 6 Deathshroud Terminators. And then we go to the Deathshroud Terminators with Lord of Contagion. With 6 man here, even without the -1 save Contagion, we have a very nice, the green line here, very high damage against everything. Just 32 wounds on Intercessors, that's 15 killed, 21 wounds on Terminators. That's 7 Terminators killed in melee here, 14 wounds on a Land Raider, almost taking it out. If we add -1 save Contagion, 19 wounds on a Land Raider, taking it out. As Beleandor said, we should expect to take out a Land Raider. And here I didn't even do the fishing for the 6s, for the lethal hits here. Also for Big Knights, 20 wounds. And if we add the Sanguos flux stratagem with Lord of Contagion, having the enemy in -1 save contagion, and the Sanguos flux, if we get sustained hits too, with being close to an infected objective, the damage is astronomical. 56 wounds on Terminators, that's 25 Marine equivalents killed. 30 wounds on Terminators, 10 Terminators killed, and even a big knight would perish here. Here I didn't even factor in the fishing for the sixes, as I said. That would be even higher damage with the sustained hits. So really, this is a big Death Star that we can use to take out anything. Finally, Typhus. He's just a baseline here in melee. Typhus he has some strong melee himself, but not as good as the Lord of Contagion. Now moving on to the durability, what type of punishment can our infantry take? This table shows you a variety of weapons. The first weapons are lighter weapons from strength 4 up to strength 7, more anti-infantry type weapons. Then we have a heavy weaponry like the Plaguebear Scroller's Mortar up to a Desecrator Laser Destructor, or the Freedom Hand Sweep of a big of Imperial Knight. Basically what you can see on the table here is how many, for example, the Storm Bolter at half range, it has 4 attacks. How many Storm Bolters at half range would it take to take out one Deathshroud Terminator without a leader? That's 20 Storm Bolters. That's 80 shots basically here to take out one Deathshroud. It would be the same amount for a Blight Lord, but only, let's say, 7 Storm Bolters to take out a Plague Marine. Here it's not point corrected, so this is just the base numbers. If we have something like a Despoiler Gatling Cannon, the Despoiler Gatling Cannon is really strong, 18 attacks here. One of those, 0.7 of those would be killing a Deathshroud, so if one of those are shooting the Deathshroud, we will expect one to be killed, but we will expect 5 Plague Marines to be killed here. So you can see here the average. For light weapons, when we move more to the heavy weapons, we see basically the Deathshroud with any leader has a good durability improvement for strength 7 weapons. If you compare the second, third, and fourth columns with the Blight Lord column, you see you have a better damage, that more shots you can take. Typhus with light green, you see where I don't have many melee weapons in this table, but something with like a Power Fist or something like this, the enemy will be hitting worse, and therefore with Typhus you get some improvement here. If you have the Deathshroud Sorcerer with a Sorcerer in Terminator armor, especially against melee damage 2-3 weapons, that can really help you. But if the enemy has very high strength damage output, then -1 damage doesn't really help us. D6 plus 2 damage, D6 plus 3 damage. Basically, you're fried anyway in this. So then Typhus would be the better one in melee here. So Deathshroud equivalently is a little bit better than a Blight Lord if he has a leader on. Otherwise, it's the same profile. And here you can see some of these comparisons. And now, final table of this video, I promise. This is the overall per point comparison of Deathshroud and other infantry for Death Guard. Here I'm not showing you the buffs of -1 save in Contagion, different stratagems, etc. So this is without at least the -1 save. So here we see all the squads: 3 Deathshroud Terminators, 6 Deathshroud Terminators, and then the 6 Deathshroud Terminators with either Lord of Virulence, Lord of Contagion, or Typhus. We see the damage point corrected here. So this is the damage per 100 points that you are investing, because of course you are paying much more to get 6 Deathshroud with Lord of Virulence that you are paying to get 3 Deathshroud Terminators on the table. So per point you can see in melee, 6 Deathshroud Terminators with Lord of Contagion have the highest damage output, 7.5 versus infantry. The infantry is the average of all the infantry I showed you in my previous tables. And also you can see versus vehicles, they also have very nice damage output here. Here you can see Lord of Contagion's nice effect. The durability, I tried to give you a durability index here for light weapons and heavy weapons. So I tried to say that an intercessor is an index 100. So a high index means high durability. So a Deathshroud Terminator, to kill 100 points of that it can take 136 shots, where the intercessor would take 100 shots, let's say, in this respect. And also for heavy weapons, we see here the improvement. If they have a leader, they get more buffed in durability wise, as I showed you in the previous table. And if they have Typhus there, he buffs them even more in versus heavy weapons, and especially in melee here. If we have the Blight Lord Terminators here, you see they have a bit more shooting damage, but not so good in melee, and especially not against vehicles. You can see in melee, let's say 2.5 wounds per 100 points, while the Deathshroud are 4 to 5 wounds per 100 points. But their durability per point is better. And then I have 4 different squad of Plague Marines I've been analyzing. So basically, the first squad is only melee oriented with Biologus Putrefier. Here we can get some good damage, but not as good damage output as the Deathshroud Terminators in melee, but they have a little bit more shooting here. If we do the squad with the Melta and the Blight Launcher and the heavy plague weapons with Biologus, we get some more better shooting at 12-inch range. If we have the Torrent Flamer squad I analyzed, this has nice 12-inch range with versus infantry, but not as strong as, not very good damage versus vehicles, as you can see here. And then a shooty squad from distance with Blight Launchers, Plasmas, and bolter guys with the Taliman can give you a little bit more damage. But again, most of those damages are better versus infantry than vehicles. So it's basically the Deathshroud are hard hitting. The Deathshroud in melee or the Plague Marines with Meltas and heavy plague weapons are our best anti-vehicle infantry weapons. So reaching to the summary and final thoughts, our Deathshroud are a very strong unit that can take out small and very big targets in melee. The 6-man squad with Lord of Contagion, with the stratagems, can take almost anything there. You can reroll, use the reroll all to hit to get more 6s versus tough targets for even greater effect than I have calculated, shown you here. But you could take out a big knight with stratagems and things like that. -1 save contagion always can help our damage output. The Chaos Lord in Terminator armor could give us a little bit rerolls, etc. But the Lord of Contagion is the better fit and is a nicer death card model here. They are slow, our Terminators, so deep striking and making the charges, let's say, or making the rapid ingress to get them there in your opponent's turn, so you have a turn to move to make a good charge, or put them on a Land Raider. The Land Raider is also expensive. I have to analyze that, but he can maybe, the Land Raider can more consistently deliver them so that they can, your big investment star can do a kill. That's a big problem with the 6-man squad with the leader, of course. And Lord of Virulence with Deathshroud could do a little bit more shooting, but I think the Lord of Contagion would be the better fit. So this concludes the video. Let me know your thoughts. Post your questions or comments to this video, and I'll grab that as input for another video when I have time again. Special thanks to all my patrons and YouTube supporters that have been sticking also with me during the bit tougher times where I didn't have time for the videos. So I'm really happy to take your, let's say, wishes for videos and things like that. So with these words, GeneralJannis signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.